You're watching New Dawn, the Wednesday edition on Ogun State Television, and just before we went on the break, we were looking at the largesse as the 34 billion naira wage arrears paid ASU and others, and we've had the phone-in segment, but now we're coming back to the state and we're looking at the scorecard of ministries and agencies. And you know that on Sunday, actually, it's going to be 3 years of this administration, 3 years of effective action, 3 years in the saddle. We're going to be looking this morning at a ministry, an effective ministry, industry, trade, and investment. We want to X-ray, we want to look, as it were, how far the ministry has gone and what are the challenges, what have they achieved, what still needs to be done. And the person that is to take that is none other person than the Honorable Commissioner for Industry, Trade and Investment in Ogun State. Madam, we'd like to welcome you to New Dawn.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes. Now, we're looking at 3 years. How far can we say within the purview of your environment? Actually, I think we should celebrate you, because you are more or less like a capacity, 3-in-1 capacity. You alone industry, you alone trade, and then you alone investment. So how do we, so far, can we say so good?
Well, I would say so. We've made good progress. Would have liked to have made even more progress, but you know that the constraints, the pandemic in 2020 and part of 2021 slowed things down a bit. But that said, I would say that we have achieved quite a lot in the last 3 years under this administration, and I'll be very happy to share a few of those things with you.
All right. Now, there are 3 segments actually.
Yes.
We want to look at industry, we want to look at trade, we also want to look at investment.
Correct.
How would you assess this administration when it comes, let's take them one after the other. You could redirect them whichever way you want, but I think we should begin with industry. So, within these past 3 years, how would you assess the Abeokuta-led administration? Of course, you are the arrowhead of that industry, of that ministry. How would you, assess your impact? What has the ministry been able to do for regards to industry in Ogun State, attracting or stabilizing industries, making quite sure that even the ones, that are on are doing well, and then have you been able to attract more industries in the state?
Okay. I will start with the big picture, and that is the operating environment in the state. It's very, very important that businesses are able to do their business, with as little hindrance as possible. So His Excellency is big on improving the operating environment in the state. We call it the Ease of Doing Business Index. So what we did early in the administration is just to look at all those factors that affect business experience in any environment. Starting with registering property for new business, or even obtaining business premises for existing businesses, to registering your property. You buy land and you want to get a CFO and so on, to obtaining construction permits. When you want to construct your business, your industry, your factory, to even things like when you're in business, enforcing contracts. How easy is it to pay taxes? So all those formed different tracks that we focused on to ensure that everything, all the constraints are identified, potential constraints are identified and addressed. Now, we were fortunate to get support from the World Bank. There's the Ogun State Economic Transformation Project, Ogtv, that is supported by the World Bank. And the business enabling environment is a key component of that.
Okay.
So that has helped us catalyze all those reforms in the area of improving the business enabling environment in the state. So as far as industries are concerned, a lot of all these obstacles, challenges that would normally they would face, we have been ensuring that we tackle them and address these challenges. Now, industries are closely related to investment, by the way, because when the industries that are already in the state do well, they're testament to those that are looking for where to invest. Right? This is just evidence that this state is a conducive state for investment. And it will then make us even more attractive.
Yeah, we're still going to get to investment, but now, what has been your relationship with the various traders, industrial associations, within the state, man? Do you have, does government, does your purview, within the purview of your administration, do you have a relationship with local organizations?
Definitely. So there's some key, we call them the industry associations, right, that we work with. Manufacturers Association is one of them. In fact, the Ogun State chapter of MAN, we have a strong relationship with them. We have quarterly engagement sessions. There used to be physical sessions before, but with the onset of the pandemic, they became virtual sessions where we meet them on a quarterly basis, get feedback from them, just almost like a scorecard. How is the experience? Where do they need help? What can we do to help? And we don't do it alone as a ministry. We are the coordinating, ministry in government. So at those sessions, we invite relevant other MDAs that have a role to play. For example, OGRS could be there if there are issues around tax, Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Finance, and many others, depending on what issues are on the agenda to discuss. There's another industry, business member organization that we have a very close relationship with, and that is the Ogun State Ogun Chamber of Industries, Mines and Agriculture, Ogun SIMA. Indeed, we have partnered with them on various tracks, including organizing what I would say were very successful international trade fairs at the Trade Fair Complex at MQ Abiola Trade Fair Complex at Okemoson. We've also partnered with them on capacity building, on getting more members, on helping their members, on various issues, partnering with NGOs that have an appetite to support various types of industries that are members of this organization. And there's so many others. There's the Association of Business Owners of Nigeria, ASBON, and then there's NASME, National Association of Small and Medium Enterprises. Indeed, in the year 2019, ASBON gave His Excellency the most SME business friendly governor of the year. And my ministry got the award as the most SME friendly business, SME friendly ministry of the year in 2019. So we have these business member organizations, many of them that we collaborate with because they organize their people into groups. And there's the other small guys, the Artisans Association, and there's so many others that we work with.
Cooperative society, but then that's not within your purview. That's under. But some of them also go into mini. Is there a collaboration with other ministries in that regard?
Definitely. We coordinate capacity building for a lot of these small businesses and entrepreneurs. So to the extent that they fall into cooperatives or certain homogeneous groups that need the services that we coordinate, we partner with the respective MDAs to provide this capacity building resources.
Some of the initiatives that you were able to launch during your time, is the Ogun State Business Premises Registration Portal, which was launched in 2021. What was intended really when this was launched, and what is the success that you have recorded from this initiative?
Right. You know, I mentioned to you about improving the business enabling environment in the state. Right. One of the indices is the ease of registering a business. So a business comes into the state, wants to start operation, and there's a law that requires that they should register their business premises. You know, it's just for transparency. This business, we know it's there, this is the industry, this is what they do, and so on and so forth. Before 2021, a lot of that was done manually. So it will require the business owner or business representative going to the ministry, collecting the form, filling the form, then getting the assessment, and then you take the form to the bank to make payment, and so on and so forth. We then did work to actually build a portal wherein the whole system was automated, right? In the space of a few minutes, once you have your data, you just go to the portal at the comfort of your office or home or wherever you are, as long as you have internet access. You provide the information, you give in your assessment, you can pay online there and then, and generate your certificate, which you can print and just paste at a visible location in your office. And just that makes it that much easier. So you don't have to incur transport costs, you don't have to be going back and forth, you don't have to, you know, have any human interface. And if you will agree with me that once something is automated, digitalized, there's more transparency, it's simpler, it's usually generally cheaper, because you don't have to be on the road, you know, going back and forth, trying to provide documents. You upload all the things that are required, and it just enhances transparency. I must say it has been very well received. You know, we are excited about it. We're very proud of the achievements. Businesses are happy to do it. It was off to a slow start because it took a while to get people to understand how it works, but we're gaining traction now, and it's actually improved significantly over the last few months. His Excellency was gracious enough last year to actually grant some kind of amnesty to everybody. So there was free registration for a certain period last year. But now, you know, it's ongoing, it's working very well, and the portal is a thing of pride for us.
Now, still talking about ease of doing business. Ease of doing business should not just start and end with registering your business with ease. It should also dovetail into a conducive atmosphere where businesses can easily or with ease conduct their business. What are some of those things that you have been able to put in place since you came on board to achieve this in terms of infrastructure, in terms of maybe security and the rest of them?
You know that His Excellency is very big on infrastructure, right? So as a government, companies have to be able to have access to the premises, right? They have to be able to get their raw materials in and their finished products out, right? I am proud to say that this administration has done almost 400 kilometers of roads in 3 years. Look at the largest industrial estate in Nigeria, Agbara Industrial Estate. That road had been bad for over 10 years, probably even 11 years or more, right? It was during the life of this administration that we started fixing that road. If you go to, now, the improvement in infrastructure, access to Agbara, has increased interest and demand for property to establish industries in Agbara. So we're actually very excited about that. So you look at infrastructure, the roads are so big. Look at things like even power and water and so on, right? It's very, very interesting for us. We're also developing economic development clusters, EDCs. There will be 6 of them across the state. Some greenfield new, some are incorporating existing estates that we're going to upgrade. These clusters, basically, what does it mean? We're providing baseline, right, where companies can just come, acquire land, and bring in the machines and start operations. So they don't have to worry about generators, they don't have to worry about sinking boreholes, they don't have to worry about, so many things because there's common infrastructure provided. That's something that we're excited about as well. You're talking about infrastructure.
Now before we, there are some pictures that are showing on the screen. In case, as you're making your comments, you want to dovetail on some of them. But then, now let me now take you on this one, because about a year into your administration, there was coronavirus.
Yeah.
And everything just went to a standstill. How were you able to pull out of that? And then can we successfully say that the state, has, pulled out of the challenges of COVID-19? Or are we still in the throes? Are we still trying to survive? Are industries within the state, what's your assessment so far with this challenge that we had, and then with the current reality that we have on ground?
I would say that 2020 was an unprecedented year. Okay. It was something that nobody was prepared for. Okay. That said, His Excellency was very proactive to ensure that we limit the devastating effects, of that virus in the state. You may recall that we had intermittent closures, lockdowns, and the way that affected industries was that only the essential industries were allowed to operate. Some of them had to shut down completely. Even when we then reopened the economy and they were allowed to work part-time, I think it was every other day or so, there were some industries that could not embrace that because of the type of machinery that they operate. Once you boot those machines, once they're in operations, it takes time to boot. They just have to keep running. You can't keep shutting them up, turning them on and off. They're not designed that way. So that affected industries a bit. But I'm proud to say that with our intervention, a lot of companies actually held back from retrenching, right? We went around, appealed to them, even if it meant that you had to do part payment, you had to find a way to juggle things so that you don't lay off staff. And they were very gracious to keep their staff, and just keep going until the end of the pandemic. Now, the pandemic brought challenges. At the same time, it also brought opportunities. With the closure of, the borders, with goods not being allowed to come into the country, a lot of industries realized that local sourcing actually is key. Backward integration, import substitution, what can we find locally? And that actually plays to the strength of, it resonates very strongly with what we have been pushing in terms of strengthening the value chain, especially around agriculture, right? So why should the large industries be importing starch? Why should we be importing those inputs that are available locally, right? Where we can grow them. Granted, they must then be processed from primary produce into what is suitable for raw materials for these industries. So we have been working very closely with the Ministry of Agriculture on agro-processing in such a way that we will meet the requirements of the industries. You can't blame the industries, right? They have a business to run. They cannot just be left to the whims and caprices of an unreliable agro-processor or supplier. If they need 100 tons of a product every month or every week, so be it. They need it. There are no excuses, right? Because they have to keep running the machines. So I'm happy that since the pandemic, there's been progress to actually source more inputs locally, right, to meet our specifications. And of course, that helps the economy. The farmer has guaranteed offtake of some sort. The processor is there to process the produce, and the industry has a reliable source that is local. It doesn't have to worry about going to look for dollar for that component of his.
All right, madam. Let me just, sorry. I want us to move away from local industry. Let's quickly go to investment. Well, let's look at, we've always said Ogun State is the investment destination of choice. You know, we're doing ease of doing business, you said so. As that translated to anything, how would you rate the investment environment? How would you rate, within the framework of your own ministry and what you've been able to do, how much investment have you been able to attract to Ogun State in the first instance? And then, how would you assess the overall environment in terms of trade and investment?
I would say that it's improving.
Okay.
We have some land. They're bringing in 400.
Our closeness to Lagos and the fact that we are the only neighbors to Lagos.
Yes, I mean, that is a fact. But beyond that, Ogun State itself is attractive.
Okay.
Just the environment, what we're doing, the policies being put in place. So before, it used to be a push factor, right? Folks that, they can't get land in Lagos, they're not able to operate in Lagos, and then they look for where else to go. Now, they are actually proactively coming to Ogun State because the environment is attractive, it's improving, and we're doing a lot to bring them in.
But some are also feeling that, okay, maybe it's a strategy on your own part that or maybe it's not within the purview of your own ministry, that there's not really been an economic summit, you know, that galvanizes everybody around the state, and then for a round table kind of within, was it strategic, or is it that, you know, the ones you've been able to do, if you've done one, if you've been able to do that, how would you assess that? How have you been able to integrate, you know, the various sectors, you know, into an holistic whole?
Well, I will say that there's a lot of work going on, right? And we will still have a summit, an investment summit that is coordinated by the Office of the Chief Economic Advisor. But what is important is the substance of it. There's a lot of dialogue going on. There's a lot of reviews. There are a lot of investors that are actually looking into this, looking in the state. They want to come and invest, and there's a lot going on. And we are seeing the results. So summit is important, but even over and above that is the number and the amount of investors that are coming into the state.
Now, tell us about some of your policies and what some of them have been able to achieve. For instance, the Ogun State Enterprise Development Agency is one of those policies that you brought into light when you came on board, and also the Ogun State Investment Promotion Council. How have they fared since implementation?
Okay, I'll speak about 3 of those tracks, those initiatives. The first is the Ogun State Business Environment Council, right? It's chaired by the Chief Economic Advisor. It's basically the body that looks at the various issues from a governance perspective around the business enabling environment, right? So they are responsible for ease of doing business indices and so on and so forth. It's operating, grow, helping them adopt, understand and adopt best practices in a sustainable way. Those principles of success that would help their businesses grow, and actually, you know, they can grow from being a micro business to a small business to a medium business to a large enterprise one day, and one day become like, you know, a big Dangote or any of those others. So just helping these MSMEs. We've organized 2 editions of the business clinics now to date, and post the clinics we have different follow-up sessions, you know, where we, for example, after the last session of MSME business clinics we did, we, got access to money for them from the Association of Microfinance Banks. They earmarked a large amount of money. I think it was 900 million naira for the MSMEs. And then we also do a lot of training for them. Not just local market access, also export. We partner with the NEPC to train them. Last year we had a few sessions on how to actually sell their products on Amazon and other online business portals. So MSMEs are a big one for us. We actually are on track to empower over 10,000 MSMEs over the next few months. We've worked with the first 5,000. The next 5,000 would come next month, and we would actually lift them from almost zero to then have a sustainable business.
All right.
And of course, I know that there is Ogunkia's, an initiative for micro and small business owners that you are actually executing in partnership with the federal government, who has also gotten support from the World Bank. How will this be implemented? Over the years, people have, there is this fear that these monies, because it's a 1 billion naira grant, and then over the years, yes, 1 billion naira grant, and then the idea is that 100,000 naira will go to micro, while 350,000 naira will go to small business owners. Now, but over the years, there has been this fear some of these monies get into the hands of the wrong persons, not those that are intended for these businesses, for these grants. So what really are you putting in place to ensure due diligence is actually done? Because even at one of the engagements that were held, that was held yesterday, some of the business associations actually said that they should actually be consulted, they should be carried along. They should actually be the ones that will recommend these micro and small business owners for the ministry, so that wrong people will not come into the picture and get these funds, these grants away. So what are you really doing to ensure due diligence is done?
As you said, this is actually a federal government backed project, also by the World Bank. So there's a framework for actually due diligencing and assessing who is eligible and who is not, right? Including transparent automated processes. So, the world has changed now. You have checks and balances, you have BVNs, you have various things, biometrics, and so on and so forth. So you can't just have fictitious ghost applicants coming to get this thing. Then there is a mechanism for applying, a mechanism for checking who the applicant is and what is being done, right? We're working with the Bank of Industry, has a very robust structure for addressing this. We also, and our ministry, are working on this. I just told you, for example, business premises permit, right? Any business, you have to have a business, right? And you have to have been in operation for 2 years. For 2 years, right? Yeah. So there will be checks and balances. You have audited accounts, you have not just Samuel Ajayi that has set up a business. No, you have to have had a business and a track record. So there are checks and balances to do this thing. I don't know what people may be justified in doubting the process, but I say with confidence that the framework is quite robust. There are checks and balances, and these grants will go to only eligible applicants.
All right.
Talking about
talking
about coming back to the business clinics, that you have organized in recent times, no doubt very, very commendable. But are the medium, the MSMEs that you are targeting, are they really seeing and appreciating the value of these business clinics? What is their response and their reaction? Have they really been involving themselves in this program?
Definitely. In fact, it's been phenomenal, right? So we facilitate registration of businesses, right, with the CAC. So this person has been operating, using their individual names, and they now register a business. Because at the clinics, the Corporate Affairs Commission attend, and they're able to register businesses. There are financial partners, there are banks and other institutions that come and open bank accounts for them. And some of them even process credit facilities for these businesses. So we do have testimonials, we have success stories of a lot of MSMEs that have benefited from the business clinics.
All right, now we have just 1 year. It's not even up to 1 year now. In less than 6 months, elections are going to be on, and after that, everybody begins to wind down.
Yeah.
Within the framework of the little time that remains, now 2 things. Let's first of all deal with the first one, and that's the fact that, okay, you've painted very good picture, we'll give you an applause, you've got an award, you've got all of that, which is quite Ogun State becoming an investment destination of choice. Has it been smooth? Just challenges? What are those things that I wished we got this better? I wish we had, what are the challenges? That's number one. And then what are your prospects for this remaining few months that you have in office? What are the things you still want to achieve within the framework of, investments, for the state in terms of trade and investment? And then what are your expectations?
Okay. In terms of what, if we had the crystal ball, what we wish?
What to wish, yeah.
Well, I wish COVID didn't happen.
Okay.
Right, because it slowed things down a lot. It stifled implementation of, our audacious plan, slowed things down a bit. But we're able to then try to catch up, under the circumstances. I'll say that we did quite well. So COVID was a bit of a distraction. But at the same time, with every challenge comes an opportunity. Okay. It then just motivated us to look for solutions. And at the end of it, in the long run, I believe that we'll be better off, having worked to overcome those challenges. Okay. So in terms of the next 9 months, if you may, we want to ramp up the work being done with the MSMEs, right? Including, if possible, commencement of the MSME Park. Okay. I was going to mention earlier that one of the economic development clusters, the one in the Jebu cluster, has 1,000 hectares allocated for SMEs, right? And we're hoping that in this period, at least we'll be able to commence the first phase of that park. It's going to be a game changer for our SMEs, because we would have an industrial estate, right, broken down into sizes that are convenient for these SMEs. So they'll come in, get the land, bring in their machinery, and start operations. Right, we're providing basic infrastructure. We're also looking at how to support them to be able to pay for the land, in whatever form, leasehold, whatever it is, where they pay, and we're arranging with financing partners just so that it's that much easier for them. We believe that this cluster model that has worked very well in different parts of the world will be a game changer for MSME space. Especially if you look at the value chain. So you're putting homogeneous groups together, and probably their off-taker is not too far away. So they can work, in a predictable and systematic manner. That's one thing that we are really, really looking forward to.
What about funding?
For who?
For that project, how?
PPP, right? Public-private partnership, right? Which is why we have a PPP office that is backed by PPP law. So we have private sector partners that have shown interest in actually partnering with us for the takeoff of those economic development clusters.
All right. Now, as we begin to bring everything to a close, what are your final words? I wouldn't know whether Dominic still has one more question before we go.
Yes, maybe.
Okay.
Well, let us look at taxes. I mean, because I know that's also within your purview. How has it really been getting people to? Of course, I know in this part of the world, people don't voluntarily want to pay taxes, except they are, they are compelled, to pay. So how has it really been for you? I mean, because we know that taxes are actually what governments use to execute projects to. How has it really been, getting taxes from people and companies, making them to comply? How has it really been for you?
Okay, so the tax regime, right? There are different categories of taxes. Okay. Corporate income tax goes to the federal government. Yeah. Right? So yes, the companies are doing well and they're contributing to the economy of Nigeria. What comes to the state government is the pay as you earn or personal income tax, right? Both from the formal and the informal sector. For the formal sector is fine because as you pay the staff, they're deducting payee just like they do for all our salaries, and they remit to the state government. The informal sector, is not as straightforward, right? What we are doing as a ministry is to try and get as much formalization as possible. Okay. Formalization has advantages in the sense that, we then know you're there, right? We can plan for you when interventions, for example, when interventions come from government. Last year, the federal government in 2020, they did the survival fund, right? The 75 billion, I think, survival fund, where they were giving payroll support to businesses, they were, formalizing businesses, they were paying grants to artisans and transporters. Guess what? When they did the payroll support, they needed for you to have a company, right? So formalization is the way to go if you want to grow and have a sustainable business. So our role, when you talk about tax drive, if you want to call it that, we want as many of these businesses to be formalized because there are benefits of having a formal business. That's the only path to growth, the only path to get capital, the only path to have access to even a bigger market. So that's what I'll say, but you should engage the OGIRS on the various other strategies that they are taking for tax revenue generation.
And when you now look at, we're talking about investments. When investments come, actually, you find out that big companies come. But these big companies, the major fund actually is not remitted to Ogun State. It's only Peter, it's only pay as you earn, it's only, all of that comes. Does that really benefit the state on the long run?
I'll tell you, I think you should look at it holistically, right? So the business, the industry comes into the state. Okay. Beyond that business, there's an ecosystem. Okay. That large industry has service providers. They employ our people. Okay. Right. They have suppliers. Okay. They come from our people. Okay. They have customers. There's so much, the employees are people, right? So they are providing jobs and they're also enhancing the economy of the state in various ways. Okay. So the employees must live somewhere, right? So the landlords are getting rent of some sort, right? They, they would go to restaurants, they would, entertain themselves, they would. There's so much that happens around industries beyond just their own operations. There's an entire ecosystem around industries that actually stimulates any economy. Okay. So you're right, yes, beyond corporate taxes, there's so much that can come from industries.
Now, maybe we should also look at yet another infrastructure, which is also very necessary for business to thrive, or businesses to thrive, and then particularly MSMEs. Yes, we have fantastic roads. Kudos to the government. But we know that power is also something that is very, very important in the life of a business. And if a state prides itself as investment hub of the nation, that state should have good power supply, as a matter of fact. Yes, I know that power is not really within the purview of the state government, but we know that, and we have seen governments, state governments, made one or two steps to ensure they increase what is being given to the state in terms of what is allocated to the state in terms of power supply. Is there any plan really from the side of government to see that?
Is it within your purview? Independent power now.
Again, I'm referring to economic development
or could
clusters.
you facilitate, and could you help facilitate something that
so
will make life easy for the people?
Taking you back again to our economic development clusters.
Okay.
Provision of reliable, predictable, clean energy, power supply is one of the key components will be one of the key components of economic development clusters, so that businesses can plan. They know what the tariff is. They know that they would have the electricity 24/7. We're also looking at, alternative sources of power. We have a Bureau of Energy that is headed by somebody that is very competent. We have worked on a power audit to see what is required, what exists and what is required, so that we can we're coming up with solutions that will address this power challenge. You're right that it's not a state government thing, but even for our businesses, which is why we want to organize these clusters, these industrial estates, wherein the provision of power will be something that would have been addressed, so companies don't have to worry about it.
Okay. Now, when it comes to investment, can we safely say that Ogun State is an investment destination of choice?
It is it's a dynamic thing, right? We cannot just say it is an investment destination of choice and go to sleep. So we're working at it. It's something that we're proactively working at. We sleep, eat, and dream it every day. We're working on it to keep improving, because other locations are not sleeping, right? So we're working at it to just stay attractive. We're doing various things. We're coming up with initiatives to ensure that we continue to remain attractive to investors.
Now, some people are saying our proximity to Lagos, for example, we should be able to tap more, but some cynics, would say it's only when Okada riders leave Lagos and then they come to Ogun State, that's what they buy from Ogun State. Some said that, but that there are other businesses, that we can, by virtue of our proximity to Lagos, attract, in such a way that, government is doing well now, everything is visible for us to see, but then are there still other areas that we can explore? Some feel that, we could still explore other areas, just a robust economy by virtue of our proximity to Lagos.
Again, I would emphasize proximity to Lagos. Ogun State in and of itself is an attractive destination.
Yes, ma'am. You want Ogun State to stand on our own.
Unfortunately, both governments have an excellent relationship. Our governor and the governor of Lagos State have a great relationship. In fact, we have an Ogun Lagos Joint Development Commission as well. So it's not about competing with Lagos State. Ogun State is an attractive investment destination. We have strong points. In fact, if you look at it, there are those sectors we have strong competitive advantage as Ogun State. Things like agro-processing were big, ICT were big, personal care were big. There's so many areas where ICT, those areas where we're big as solid minerals, we have the largest, as a state, we contribute largest to solid minerals. So on our own, we have enough that makes us attractive.
Now, we have people who actually work in Lagos and stay in Ogun State.
And vice versa.
And exactly. And at the end of the day, we discover that these people, they get to pay their taxes in Lagos.
That is being sorted out. We're working on that. Lagos State is cooperating with us to sort that out. That is.
I think it's the residency rule thing that
that's been sorted out. I told you there's a Lagos Ogun Joint Development Commission, so it's quite amicable, transparent. We're working on that.
But does that fall within the purview of your own administration, or is it economics? The chief economic advisor.
Yeah, we don't handle taxes. We are industries, you know, what the industries do. Yeah. But again, it's one government. We're working together. We collaborate very harmoniously and very strongly with the other MDAs.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think I've seen you 1 or 2 times on this program for IRS. You know where you are at too. Now, as we coastal now, before we let you go finally, because we're looking at, okay, I'm getting signals that our time is up. Unfortunately, we'll not be able to ask you any further questions. But I think so far so good. We want to wish you well.
Thank you very much.
We want to thank you very much for this time. And we want to congratulate you on those awards that you have won. And we hope that this next few months that remain, your dreams will be able to come alive. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we've been looking at the focus on the 3-year administration of Prince Dapo Abiodun in Ogun State, with specific attention on industry, trade, and investment. And we've just had the Honorable Commissioner in charge of that ministry, Mrs. Kikelo Molunge. Well, you are still watching New Dawn. We'll take another break, and then we will be right back. Do stay with us.